The Refuge is a location in Sunbury for kids grades 7 to 12 to go after school Tuesdays and Thursdays. They get their homework help with writing papers, and help with studying. On Tuesdays, they're invited to stay for dinner, which is usually provided by volunteers in the community. Ian Snyder is the director of the Refuge and says the kids get to have some fun time, too.
So we do different activities in the building. Sometimes the girls will have a craft to do, or you'll see little pockets here where kids are playing board games, pool, video games, and stuff like that.
Snyder says the original idea for the Refuge was sort of a divine intervention and started when he was a senior in high school on a mission trip near South America. There, he was helping to build a recreational facility.
I was praying the one day, and God just was like, I want you to go back to Sunbury and start a youth center. And I was like, okay. I didn't have any direction on my life, so I was like, well, I guess I'll try that. And so I came home. I remember telling my one teacher at school, I know what I'm supposed to do with my life. I'm going to make start a youth center in Sunbury.
Snyder had the idea, but would it work in Sunbury? They started with their first location on Race Street.
And that was absolute chaos. We rented a building for like 9 months. We had like 50 kids a night showing up with like 3 staff. It was very much a learning experience.
So the Race Street location didn't exactly fit the bill, but after witnessing something downtown, Snyder says he knew he couldn't give up.
It really hit home to me one night as we were driving home, and we saw one of our youth center kids, and it wasn't even on a youth center night, and he was out at like 11 o'clock at night, and I just thought, he was actually out here climbing the front of one of these buildings, and he was probably about 15 feet up, and just like he had nothing to do and no one responsible for him. And I just thought, like these kids need someone to show them that they matter. They need someone to tell them what it means to be safe. Like you should not be out by yourself at 11 o'clock at night. You should obviously have your schoolwork done. A lot of the kids that we work with are, when they come here, they're failing in school, or they are borderline failing a few subjects, and so we work with them on those subjects to try and get their grades up. We want them to be responsible.
The next step was to find a permanent building, which wasn't exactly easy. Snyder says at the time they had no money.
Within probably another week of looking at the building, someone anonymously donated all the money to buy this building to my church. I don't even know who it was to this day.
Then the work began repairing and remodeling the 3-story building in the 800 block of Market Street. It wasn't all smooth sailing. There were some extreme repairs needed to get the location up to code. That included a back parking lot with a handicapped accessible ramp in which a community member volunteered supplies to make possible.
We needed like a single piece of handrail that went the entire way, and we're like, where are we gonna get all that metal? Where are we gonna find someone to weld it? And like, this guy came along, he's like, oh, I have all the metal for that in my barn. It's just been sitting there, and I'll come and weld the whole thing together.
Oh,
so
wow.
He came and made this for us.
So you guys did all of this
This
yourselves?
is all ourselves.
Wow.
We had to raise up the back parking lot, so we brought in like 20 tons of stone to raise it up, to make a handicapped parking spot back there.
It just sounds like a lot of this just fell together.
Yeah, it's just like, to just be like one big like hurdle in front of us, and then be like, well, how is this gonna happen? And then like God would come through with like, someone with the right skills or the right materials to get it done.
Snyder says all of the work has been a big group effort.
We're on the first floor, which is done, but the second and the half of the third floor above us are still being remodeled. So it's cool that we can work with kids down here and still be finishing what needs to be finished up there, and eventually we want to use every space in the building.
There are anywhere up to 30 kids who come to the Refuge after school. They do their homework, have some fun while still learning. We stopped by when the kids were making paper circuits, using magazines to make collages on paper, and then batteries and circuits to light up certain parts of their collage.
I like it here because it gives me time so I don't have to go home and just do chores and stuff. It gives me activity because out where I live, I only have 2 friends and they're mostly busy or not here. So I'm bored throughout the summer. So instead of playing on my iPod and DS, I come here on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
The Refuge is a Christian-based program, and there are volunteers from over 7 different area churches that help out on a weekly basis. Snyder says those volunteers are a huge reason the Refuge is successful.
All of our volunteers are part of a church somewhere. Whether it's coming down from Bloomsburg or Lewisburg or, churches in Sunbury or over on the Strip. We have people from all over the valley. They're just from different churches. And we have, our ratio of staff to kids, today it's crazy because there's not many kids here, but even when there's 30 kids here, we may have, 8 to 10 staff here, which is a great ratio with the kids, just to cover the space. And there's just little small groups going on all over the place. You'll see a couple kids and there'll be a staff with them and they'll be doing something together. So it works out really well.
As for the future, Snyder says work will continue with all sorts of different rooms in the building, including a place for kids to sit and eat.
This will eventually be a dining room.
Oh, okay. So this is one of the dining.
Yes, this will be a dining room, so to be able to sit down as a family, in a family style, around a table. The food will be there on the table. They'll be able to share it.
And it's not the only place to focus on food. Snyder says one of the main focuses is on rebuilding and remodeling a kitchen.
We'll have a gas stove, and then we have to put in a huge range hood there that'll exhaust from the stove. So
Will the kids be cooking too once it's
eventually, yes.
Yeah.
And my dad, he that's his thing. He's retired now, and he's just itching to get up here so we can do meals in house. We don't have to bring food in every week.
That would be really neat.
Yeah, the kids will definitely be involved. They were involved in the last Refuge, helping out in the kitchen and learning how to cook things.
Upstairs, there are big plans that also include an art room, music room, and room for computers to do homework. When those are complete, Snyder says he hopes to have more volunteer help.
People that want to volunteer and come in and be hey, I can come on Thursdays and do lessons, and this will be their space. The kids will know to come for lessons, and they'll be up here and learning drums or guitar or whatever.
So we know the Refuge serves kids in the community, but is there anything the community can do for the Refuge? Snyder says their mindset is to work with kids that may have a tough time at home. He calls it a grassroots effort where they are investing in youth, and hopefully the youth will then invest back into the community. He just wants people to know that the Refuge exists and what they do. The big picture, Snyder says, is to make sure kids have a safe and caring environment.
Investing in the kids is one of the best ways to kind of change the face of the way people see Sunbury. We may not be able to fix all the problems in the adults, but can we do things in the next generation so that kids aren't making the same mistakes that their parents made before them?
Snyder says they are always looking for volunteers, and there are a number of ways the community can help. He says they're looking for people who would regularly make meals. In addition, they need crews that would help with cleanup inside and outside of the property. Anyone who knows how to do finishing work, painting, or installing drywall and lights and would be interested in volunteering is also asked to contact Snyder. He again says the Refuge has no monetary budget. It's all about volunteers. You can find out more about the Refuge online at their website, sunburyrefuge.org. That's it for this episode of IYN. If you have a story idea, email us at IYN@secv8.com. I'm Sara Bartlett. I'll see you next time on In Your Neighborhood.